Good morning, everyone. This is Tim from the Word of Life Church. Wanted to come back on and do my usual news articles. No, I did one yesterday. I apologize. It's been like 2 or 3 days since, or maybe a couple more days longer than that, since I got on to actually teach or preach a lesson. But I'm going to do that, Lord willing, today. But I wanted to come on first and nothing else to kind of get my voice warmed up. We're still dealing with sinus and stuff. All you guys out there knows that deals with that almost on a daily basis knows what I'm talking about. Plus, it's freezing outside. Man, I'm already over winter. But, you know, this is the day the Lord has made, so we'll rejoice and we'll be glad in it as much as we can. As much as we can. Amen. First on the list, it's titled, I can't even talk this morning, titled, Doomsday Passes Over America Several Times Almost Every Day, experts warn, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. Well, of course, that piqued my interest and to exactly what they were talking about. Knew it couldn't be anything type of, like a meteor or a comet or anything like that. So the next thing would be satellite. Okay, so here we go. Several times almost every day, many times every week, North Korean satellite KMS 3-2 passes over North America and the U.S., capable of carrying a hydrogen bomb as detailed in the video below. They go into detail about, missiles that can be launched from space and actually, either way, if it, let's get down where the rubber meets the road. I'd almost rather it almost just hit and go ahead and take us home to be with the Lord than just detonate in the atmosphere and turn the entire continent back in the days when we're going to have to use candles and no electricity, nothing, absolutely nothing is going to work. People say, "Oh, it's going to throw us back to the Stone Age." Well, when I hear people say Stone Age, they're referring back to the cavemen and stuff like that. There was a time when we used stone tools and stuff like that, but it was not like the cavemen era and stuff like that. After the flood, people don't understand what all went on and what the world was like before the flood of Noah. Now is not the time to get into that. But after the flood, when people had to start redoing stuff again, rebuild, and as they knowledge increase and people start spreading all over the globe, we had to use stuff such as that. Had to make tools, and the knowledge that was all the stuff that happened before the flood was kept, but we're not sure if it was kept by the people who survived the flood. I know that's kind of tantalizing. Like I said, it's nothing I want to go to on a news report, especially. That's something for a long teaching. So, at any rate, says we can see the satellites continuous passes over America in the screenshots seen in the story, and it goes down basically almost, really and truly almost. It does have kind of a curvature to it, but it goes right down smack middle of our continent. So this is called by one expert the problem from. Well, I'm not going to say that word on air. I wouldn't say it anyway because. At any rate, we see the satellite often sneaking up on America from the south, where we're told we're quite vulnerable, as that is our blind side. Can't hardly see this morning. Now we learn U.S. troops are on the highest alert over North Korea. So I won't go into much more into that, but that's something we have to be really we need to really keep that in our thoughts, because at any one point the world's in the shape. Most of the world's in the shape, especially the places, the continents, the people that hate our country. wanted to see it destroyed at any cost. It's only by the grace of God that a nuke hasn't been dropped on us yet. Center of the U.S. and boom, or up in the atmosphere to that would give an electromagnetic pulse or blast that would take out our entire electrical power grid. Just depending. I don't think one exactly could do it, but it would take several days in the atmosphere to take out almost everything, and we would be back to nothing. I mean, nothing would, no electricity, and it would be a horrible scenario. So that's why you heard me say it first, and kind of gasping. Well, yeah, I actually mean I would almost wish that if somebody's going to throw a bomb over here and just go ahead and tell you what, let it go off and send us to be with the Lord, because anything after that or less than that is going to be horrible beyond belief. Ain't going to be no going to stores anymore. Ain't going to be no paper cash anymore. Federal Reserve notes. Get that? Federal Reserve notes. It's not real money. So I know that's people are, well, that's just morbid. Well, it's only because in my mind I can envision a United States that this has happened to, and any of the disaster movies that you've seen, as far as something like that happening. Now I know it's nothing like, what was the name of it? I can't remember who really starred in it. It's called The Day After Tomorrow, where giant tidal waves and a new ice age hit upon us, and it was a disaster movie. But this is going to be totally different, because we're going to be alive and people's going to be fighting and killing each other during survival situations, because it's just a bad enough situation. Just to be honest, I wouldn't want to be around him. So that's why each and every day, that's why I say make your calling and election sure. Make sure your sins are under the blood. Make sure you're saved and you're walking in God's will, because if it's only by the grace of God that something like this has happened yet, and we're not guaranteed 100 that this won't happen. So at any rate, might be something to look for if we can find in God's Word some of the things that we warn about. And I guarantee at some point you're going to find it, and the stuff that you don't find under a specific heading, such as something like this, it's covered at any rate. It's covered under a blanket statement of these things can happen. So at any rate, something to keep in mind, and that's just North Korea. You can imagine the rest of the countries that have all the satellites and stuff in orbit and have space-based weapons, just like the United States has. It would totally shock us. Excuse me for a minute. Clearing the old throat there. Next one, and don't know why a lot of talking about Hitler here lately, but there's a bit of talk about him, and I think it has to do exactly with his of course the evil that he did, and he was one of many antichrists that have come down through history. But he had the distinction of being closer to our time and really, hammering down on the Jewish people, and seeing the death camps and seeing the piles of shoes and stuff like that in the ovens, and it's just horrible. But I think it was also, there's a lot of talk about him recently just because of his agenda is still now you got to remember, a little bit of a basis here. You remember, people, you can look it up. Everyone remembers hearing about Operation Paperclips, when I've talked about this before, just to mention, when the U.S. got to Nazi scientists and gave them basically asylum in the U.S. In exchange for their scientific help and knowledge, and apparently many of those, especially ones in their 70s or 80s now, are actually members of the Catholic Church and are priests to get away. Because you got to remember, at the time, the stuff that he was doing against the Jews was fully supported by the church, by the Catholic Church. Anti-Semitism, it's back on the rise, and what if it even ever really subsided? They started coming back and became a nation once again in 1948. But a lot has been talked. People have been talking about Hitler here lately. And of course his book Mein Kampf, My Struggle. And I'm just wondering if it has to do really with his agenda. People think when you start talking about like the Ark of the Covenant, as far as like the World War II, the Holy Grail and the Spear of Destiny and all this other stuff and everything. Oh, that's just Indiana Jones type stuff. No, Hitler really went after a lot of this stuff. Okay, that he believed, especially the Aryan belief of there's the ascended masters, and they were he was very occultic, and so was his cabinet of people that were his top commanders. It was a very occultic type of army. I mean, until we got involved, and at the time, I believe really we were a godly nation. God was with us, and we got involved. We eventually we took the war to him, and we beat him. Thanks be to the Lord. Otherwise we'd be sitting there. Well, for one thing, probably wouldn't. People say, "Well, I'd be sitting here talking and speaking in German." Well, maybe, but I definitely wouldn't be on there talking about this. At any rate, a lot of talk about him lately, and I'm interested to find out exactly why. But they had a program, where they believed that the Aryan race was the perfect pure race. Tall, white skin, blue eyes, blonde hair. Just supposed to be the most beautiful men and women there is. And he tried to experiment and breed and get that back, because that was I'll say this. I think that's what they believed, that the Aryan race they believed was based upon at the very least fallen angel worship, but just because of the way they portrayed, and even today, as part of the great deception that's coming, some of the aliens that people say they see and report are tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and that's exactly the kind of people that he believed the Aryan race was perfect, and were Superman. And he had a program to try to bring them back around again. The Uberman, Superman, as that's what it stands for. And he didn't care how many, of course he didn't care about the Jews. He tried to just exterminate that whole race, because to him they were just, they were nothing. Horrible. Anyway, I went through all that just to say there's been quite a bit talked about Hitler here lately. Was the reason I brought all that up, and that is just a very, very surface, quick mention of what the whole issue is behind that. Would be an interesting study for another time. But it just what reason I brought it says that there's last couple of days there's been news articles about Hitler and something related to Hitler, so that's why I wanted to bring that up. But basically, I'll give you the the title. It said, "The Shrine to Hitler, the Nazi-loving Austrian pub where the Fuhrer was born is thrust back into the spotlight with Mein Kampf release." Okay, so they're bringing back Hitler's book that outlays everything and eventually his final solution to wipe out all Jews. And op-ed, perfect timing. This is the second one here. Germany reprints Hitler's Page Turner, and it is an instant bestseller. How about that? The book that says basically exterminate an entire race of men and women is back into print. So, at any rate, excuse me. I apologize. It helps the throat and talking. Okay, next we have good old Pope Francis back in the news once again. Say fine, upstanding Pope that he is. Basically, let's break this down. Pope Francis calls for collaboration with world's religions. Right then, that should raise a red flag. Right when you say that. So, yeah, those who meet God in different ways. Okay, there's your second red flag. That's coming up. To put this article in, says, in his opinion, the declaration that came from the mouth of the dragon should be the wake-up call for all believing followers of Jesus worldwide. So, yeah, that right there. The Catholic have done this. The movement of the ecumenical movement, basically to bring every other religion on the planet back under, or the Protestant Church back under, shall we say, under the umbrella of the Catholic Church. So it'll be like, the Reformation never happened, and the Catholic Church just rules everything. Well, no, they don't, because for one thing, there's a lot of dirty. Now I'm not just singling out the Catholic Church. There's a lot, especially like the people. I'm not going to sit and be a judge, because I'm not a judge. I'm judge of some Catholic people, but I can only tell you what is reported and stuff. And to me, it would be enough. Say for instance, I belong to this group of churches, and we find out that one. Now this is not real. I'm just using an example. We're a member of a group of churches, and we find out that a member or something does an act of pedophilia. So instead of being prosecuted by the law of the land and being punished like they should, jail, whatever, the church they're in, and take them from there and move them across town to this other church. That way, at this church, they don't have to worry about it anymore. This other church has him and everything. That's basically what the Catholic Church has done. They've just moved around the people that have done this, and there's a lot more behind all that. It's not just the pedophilia. We're talking about satanic ritual abuse. We're talking about Luciferianism inside the Catholic Church. There's many people that will attest to that. I just told you a minute ago about the Hitler's and Germans, SS, coming in under the umbrella of the Catholic Church that are, in their 70s and 80s now, or older. So it very disturbing. You can read some of the stuff about people that's actually come out. It's not just one person that's blown a horn and told this stuff. It's been many different people that have the same information. I mean, that gives other little details to it, but it's just like, the same thing. So it's no, there ain't no way. People say, then people just love to have the Pope come by and lay hands on them or something like that. But you know what? he can get in front of me and I'll smile and say, how do you do? And I'm going to kneel down and kiss his pinky or his ring. Good grief, people. He's not God. He is not God on earth. He is not infallible, okay? He is a human being that needs salvation through grace by the Lord Jesus Christ. But he's sitting there saying that, basically everything against, hey, any religion that brings you closer to God, then that's what you need to do. You're still going to heaven anyway. We'll do this, you're still going to heaven anyway. It annoys me, to say the least, to see this Pope acting the way he's acting, like a rock star, basically. People just love him. What was he? Front piece on Time magazine, and the countless articles written about him. Oh, this is the Pope for the world. No, he's not. You know what? He's a sinner that needs to be saved by grace. Especially if he is guilty of some of the stuff that we just talked about, and hid stuff. And we know, along with the pedophilia, what other can of worms could you open up? There's a bunch. Too time consuming, and it just make you mad. Don't want to start off before start preaching in an aggravated kind of a spirit such as that. But I'm sorry. I just like to have this stuff is serious and everything like that. Lord puts a smile on your face, and makes you where you can actually laughter is as good medicine. And I find to me, sometimes in the news, some things just strike me so hilarious. I just have to laugh. Anyway, moving on. I need a drink of coffee real quick here. Excuse me. Okay, gene altering super weapons could make humanity extinct. This goes along with, and I believe I mentioned it the other day, with the transgenic type movement, where there is and really, when you're talking gene altering, if you're talking transhumanism, you're talking about something in line along, or that has to do with uploading your consciousness. I know it's stupid, to a robotic body or a machine, and therefore, hey, machine just wear out. You can be conscious, can be transferred to something else. You circumvent God. You circumvent judgment. You live forever in a machine type body, or a robotic body, or a computer. Well, when you get into talking about into the gene alteration, you're talking about when you're getting into transgenics, okay? And just kind of give you a quick thing, or open that. You guys have heard me talk about it. You start getting into transgenics and recombinant DNA, that type of area, that field. They say, wouldn't you love to have superpowers like the X-Men? Like, imagine a soldier that has the genes of a panther or something like that. They have been, and it's not just scientific. There are supernatural elements to this too, which they won't admit if they're trying to do this, and who knows what they've already done. But you imagine a soldier that can see as well at night as a cat, like a panther or a tiger or whatever. A person with the strength and the dexterity and the of a gorilla or something like that. That's just an example. Increased healing capabilities in people. I'm not talking about Wolverine like from the X-Men, but that's along the same lines. But now they're talking about it in scientific form and fashion. But I believe it's not just, this is my personal opinion, I don't believe it's just that can be done in a scientific form, especially with our fallen nature. There's going to have to be a supernatural element to be able to do this. Okay, there's so much going on, and like I said, all these are, especially the transgenic area. Transhumanists kind of have, their own little setup, but the gene altering and transgenic stuff really go into the has to do with DARPA, the Defense and Research Projects Agency. It creates different kind of weapons and does experimental and highly, theoretical type stuff like this. So, at any rate, it seems like we get introduced to this stuff little by little each and every time they bring out a news article or some scientist setting and will come out with a news article about this just to, just to get us kind of used to it. But read a line from this. It says, the future of weaponry won't necessarily involve higher capacity firearms, more advanced bombs, or better fighter jets. Now think about this. This is another angle to this. It will encompass an entirely new realm of genetically modified bioweapons that threaten to destroy the human brain and cause irreversible genetic level damage to the planet. We are entering, we have entered for many years, should I say, a new era of technology that's been weaponized. It's unbelievable, some of the stuff that, especially come time when the Lord comes back on the field of battle, Armageddon. It's not countries fighting against each other. It's all the nations gathered together to fight against the visible return of the Lord Jesus Christ. You guys have heard me preach, teach, and talk about that. It's going to be the most technologically advanced and most supernaturally charged army that's ever been on this planet before. And that's including the time before, the flood of Noah, where stuff was more advanced and more stuff was going on that people know about. That unless you really get in and study and look at older texts and that, it would really shock you. Pardon me. So that while we're on that talking about bioweapons, destroy the brain, cause irreversible genetic level damage to the planet. I think it goes along with pandemics, the thought about that. And people, you've heard me mention this before, this deal with this zombie apocalypse stuff that has it's come along, like that show The Walking Dead, and there's other shows, and it's just people just love it. People are just fixated upon death, walking death. Okay, let's line this up here. Satan has no ability, and yes, he is Satan. He is the adversary. Hear me, high-level Masons. Hear me, Luciferians, the elite. That he is no longer Lucifer, the light bearer who you serve. He is Satan, the adversary. He cares nothing for you. He could care less you fall off the earth and never be heard from again. Or if you burn in hell for eternity, he don't care. But at any rate, we know that he does not have the power of resurrection, okay? And I know the Lord is not going to resurrect somebody from the grave and it be walking around as a dead man, all decayed and stuff like that. Okay, that should be a total give-in to know that. What could happen, and I know this was just a movie, but you see, I don't watch but these other movies like the shows The Walking Dead and all these other shows, and they're about zombies walking around because of whatever, some kind of disease or something like that, or pandemic. Now that, if anyone has ever seen the movie with Will Smith, I Am Legend, at the very beginning, a woman comes on and she's, oh, we found a cure to cancer, this vaccine. Making a long story short, basically, the vaccine has some unforeseen problems and mutates, ends up creating this pandemic that basically wipes out, getting close to wiping out humanity, and basically who gets infected by it becomes basically these animalistic, just will tear into blood and eat human flesh, become cannibals. See, if they didn't resurrect from the dead, they were slowly changed by this virus. So if anybody wants to think of a zombie apocalypse, then if you think of it in that manner, especially if there was supernatural help from the side of darkness, like I said, the devil doesn't have the power of resurrection, never had, and he never will. So if anything ever happens like that, he could push something like that if the Lord allowed it. You got to remember, we're talking about all this stuff right here. The devil and all of this stuff. We got to remember, God is so much higher. There's no contest. But we have to deal with the things that we have to deal with. We have to deal with the evil and the darkness down here while we're here still walking this planet. We have to do it in the name of the Lord. We do it any other way, we're going to be like the seven sons of Sceva when they try to, we cast you out in the name of this person, Jesus, who Paul preaches. That's how I imagine him trying to say it. And, said, Jesus I know, and Paul I know, but who are you? Boom. They run out, you know the story, naked, yelling, screaming, It would have been a sight. at any rate. So really and truly, it's really amazing how we as humans, especially now on this, that we're a fallen race because of what happened in the garden, the ways that we invent to try to kill each other. You name it. But it will be that way until the end. And Jesus is coming back. He will come back. I promise you, he's coming back. He's coming back for his church. Those of you that are saved. So, as I said, we've got to deal with this stuff. I don't know how far we're going to have to deal with this stuff. The Lord said that he didn't even know the time when the Father said, until, he said it's in the hands of the Father, God. He's the only one that knows. When he declares it's time, the end, then that's when it'll happen. That's when the Lord will return. But anyway, that was just a quick, semi-quick. But if I talk about something like that, I don't want it to sound just like way out there. I want to kind of bring it back in to, make it a little more, where you can know what I'm talking about. Because some of these headlines, you just can't read the headlines and say a few words about them. You have to kind of get in and really dig in and see what it's actually talking about. We are heading towards a European 9/11. Counterterrorism official says terror groups are plotting simultaneous attacks in various countries this year. Well, where's this guy been sleeping? Last year, and it's a very real threat. Like I said, I think eventually they would still do it, but there was a lot of chiming. In fact, I did it too before Christmas, talking about if you're at malls, at stores, a lot of people, you see something wrong, you see something that doesn't seem right, to report it. And I think a lot of people were talking about that, and it may have actually postponed some things, not because of anything, just because of me or a few other people, because God he of course put a stop to it, because without him the floodgates would be open, and it would be horrible. But talking about it, people more and more aware, and people are more aware nowadays after what happened. We go into 9/11 and all the stuff that goes along with that. That's That's a real big, huge can of nasty worms. But yeah, we're heading towards stuff that actually he's saying the European 9/11. I'm gonna go further than that and say that they get something, do something. They're going to do something that's going to try to put 9/11 to shame. Just to be honest, it's going to be a lot worse than that. So be much in prayer for that. Everyone still be on your guard. Now I know, you just don't know. Not in this world today. You don't know when you're gonna. And I don't watch the news. I don't. I go to. I go to some of the mainstream news sites, not because I'm hanging on their every word and believe what they're saying, but I want to see what they are reporting, and because they're told what they can report, and what they can't report, what they're talking about, and 9 times out of 10, it's the latest tattoo that Lady Gaga has got. But anyway, at any rate, that's why I can't stand the mainstream news. Just for the basic reason that they are in the back pocket of the elite and they're controlled media, and they're told what they can and can't, talk about. So at any rate, talking about this guy's what he's talking about. Yes, absolutely. We're going to see probably more stuff going this year. There's I read the list yesterday of things that were going to end up happening this year, or more of, and this was one of them. More attacks and stuff that's going to put what we've seen RA to shame. Maybe stuff like 9/11 could be more. If 9/11 happened the way we were presented and shown 9/11 happening, think about that. Suitcase nukes going off, bioterror, you name it. It's the world we live in today, people. It is. Oh, moving on. I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you a threat? That's what this piece is asking right here. Are you a threat? Police software scans your social media. Hear that, Facebook people? Very dangerous for a citizen. One thing is certain. This is the near future world of, if everybody remembers the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, has arrived on scene. It's already in its first phase of life. The public is clueless, basically. In that movie they actually profiled a crime before it actually happened and would go and arrest the person that was getting ready to do it. Does it sound far-fetched? Well, look, I was telling my parents this the other day, that saw a friend of ours. Haven't talked to him in 2 or 3 years, but he at one point on his Facebook profile, he showed himself. It was a picture of him standing at the center of a room, decked out in camo, wearing all kinds of knives and holding a shotgun, a rifle, and a gun belt and all that. And behind him, lined on the wall, were shotguns and rifles, like his entire collection, right up there on Facebook for everyone to see. Okay, who's the first person they're going to go to? As you guys have heard me talk about before, people say, they're confiscate. Look, they don't have to confiscate. All they have to do is come and separate you from your guns and take you somewhere else. And if they've got you locked up in the car, even at that point, yeah, they can go through rip your house apart and take everything that's there. That way no one else could get it. That's just plain and simple. Now, I know this deal with the Hammond Ranch, the militias that are doing that, everything, and that's, we're Americans and we're doing this. I understand that and I appreciate that. But you got to remember, you don't have the stuff, the weapons that this demonized government of ours has. You know, all they have to do is find your camp or camps, basically send in a couple of choppers, and your history, you're toast, you're gone. You know, I hate to talk about these people that are, you know, that are pro-militia. Hey, look, I love our rights, and I know we're in danger of losing them every day. Our, you know, our constitutional rights, you know, but I'm just not sure gathering together like that is a way to handle it. And a lot of people are probably going to fall out with me by saying that. I'm not sure, but I'm not against it, but I'm just not sure that's not you know, exacerbating the situation that's going on. Now, people, you know, you've heard the whole story, I'm sure, about it. These people have been kind of like in a little mini war with the federal government over burning some land. They burned some of the federal land, and the judge sent them to jail. I think one guy, it was this guy and his son, sent one to a year in jail, and the other for 4 months. Got out, and the federal judge said they didn't spend enough time, so I think he sent both of them back for each 4 years. And I don't know if I haven't seen more about it. Seems like they are kind of pushing it under the rug. Haven't seen, they were supposed to report back, and at one point, I'm not sure if they have reported back to jail or not. I heard that they were, so they were cooperating. But you know, they've got these militia groups and militias from other states that have come and joined them, taking control of that federal area of land. Well, people, I'll leave that up to you to decide and look at it and study it. Like I said, you know, it isn't like not like the Revolutionary War. It's not like that anymore. I would love to think of it that way, you know, patriots, and we were fighting for our rights as a nation, and we are just, unless God's in the situation like that and gives you the victory, there's no way you're going to win against a government that is so well equipped. Or, you know, they're not going to come in there sending soldiers in there that they might say that they did. You know, they can do anything they want to. They can do anything they want to and get by with it. And at one point, if they get mad, all they got to send is a couple of Apache helicopters or something else a little more stealthier that they say that they don't have, which they really do, and take them out. It can happen. But anyway, I'm going to move on from that because, like I said, to me, I have to think. I've thought about it the last few days, and you know, seen the news about it, and I just, I don't know. It's not like I said, it's not like the Revolutionary War where we're still using, cannons and, flintlocks and, cavalry on horseback and stuff like that. It's, you know, no longer that anymore. You know, we being the patriots and American citizens, we're we're in a situation like that, maybe in ATVs or feet or boots on the ground against aerial weaponry that can take tanks out. I'll leave it at that. Don't get me wrong, I am totally 100% for our rights and keeping our rights as American citizens, our constitutional rights, you know, the Bill of Rights, you know, all the stuff that the forefathers of America wrote down for us. Now, that's another thing about how the forefathers set everything up, but at any rate, well, jump through all that. because I was talking about the European 9/11. It's a shame that we have to be worried about our own government being part of that, and not being, thinking, pushing, the Islam's the enemy and all that, and which, I don't agree. I don't agree with Islam, and I'd love to see many more of them come to Christ before, they end up blowing themselves up, thinking they're doing something for their God, which is not the same God that we worship. But anyway, moving on. The social media deal, but word of warning about that. Now I know I put these. Have my wife put these on her Facebook account. I used to have a Facebook account. I turned it off just because, don't want to deal with all the drama and the junk on there. But my answer to all that was to, when I'm putting these messages and news updates and teachings and stuff, I was having put up there and then put them on YouTube. That's my contribution. Be careful when you on Facebook what you're talking about, everything, because you're going to do something. You're going to get in yourself one day, or you're going to be feeling the oats one day, and you're going to say something that's going to be taken as a threat against the government or law enforcement or something. And it may be totally opposite what you actually meant, but it could be taken that way, and before you know it, you're going to get a knock on your door. And for heaven's sakes, don't stand posing with, an entire a safe worth full of guns behind you and hold them. That's not good. That is not good. That's not cool. That right there could be taken as a challenge. And there again, like I said, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, you're just a big coward, you don't want to stand up. No, I will stand up for my rights, especially within God's law. If it goes against Him, we're supposed to obey the law of the land. But if it's a law that's going to cause me to cross God's law, then no, I won't follow. I'm gonna go with God's law, which is exactly why I talk about and deal with the sodomite issue. Right, it's God's word. Old and New Testament says that is wrong, and I stand against it. If God says it's wrong, then it's wrong. And He says that sodomy is wrong. It's an abomination and should not be. That's just a quick example. But anyway, let's move on here. More on, of course, you can't read any news updates without having something talked about in the financial area. They're calling it the China syndrome, the coming global financial meltdown. Troubling because, it's really hard to tell. You want to be able to tell people and share this information, but even the people that are in the know may not get a flag until it's too late. May not get find out something before it's too late and something's going to happen. My best advice to people out there, especially to have people that has a lot of stuff in the make, and we don't know how soon after. When this financial meltdown happens, if the dollar is going to still be of any value whatsoever, I believe it's China ordered, I believe their banks to stop purchasing U.S. dollars. So I'm not sure if they're going to even be worth it after that, but cool heads will prevail. Just keep an eye on it. I'll keep an eye on it. And nothing else, if you want to make yourself feel better, do something. Pull out some and have a little nest egg. Put it in the fire safe. Keep it, That's why I said the other day we're almost back to putting money in our mattresses again. Because if the banks shut down, then the money that's in there of yours is no longer yours. It's an unsecured debt, and the bank will take hold of it and pay what they need to pay. That's just the way it is. I didn't make this up. I'm not making it up. I'm not trying to scare everyone. I'm trying to push the news out there that way people are aware. But as I said, cooler heads prevail. Don't knee jerk and panic. That's the problem people used to do when we talk about new gun laws. When somebody all of a sudden starts calling for new gun laws, people go out and they buy everything up. You can't find anything. This gun, no, it's sold out. And I think the last time, a year or two ago, when they start talking about a new assault weapon ban. I don't know if anyone knows that, but I don't know if it's in every area, but I know the Walmart in our area, Walmarts in our area, sell AR-15s. Well, when this a couple of years ago, when they mentioned a new ban that was going to be tried to push through, I think they said in one day they sold out of every AR that they had and all the ammo that they had. People split lists with the financial stuff and the gun stuff. Don't knee jerk, okay? They're doing that for a reason. They're seeing how you're responding. It's a test in a lot of ways to see how that you'll respond to that. So, cooler heads prevail. Okay. Stuff talking about, very hypothetical, talking about World War III. Do I think that we'll see a third world war in our times? That is very, very hard to say because, as I said, you have to remember the Lord's in control of everything. If we do, we'll know that He'll make a way for it. And if He's ready for us to come home, then we'll go home to be with Him in a situation like that, which I would much prefer than having to go through something like that. Talk about a mess. And I mean, it's not going to be nowhere near like World War II. Nothing like it. Weapons we've got, the technology we've got that we've gotten from, and I'll say this, other intelligences. I'm not talking about extraterrestrials either when I say that. I'm talking about stuff gets put in their mind by the dark side, by the fallen ones, the demonic spirits go forth to, all of a sudden people have even said when they come up with new technology or new weapon technologies. For one example, a scientist was in his swimming pool and all of a sudden he stopped and it seemed like he said it was a download to his head. In his mind, he had this new whatever it was, and had in his mind all of a sudden every bit of it shoved in there of what it was, what it did, and how to make it. So a lot of our weapon technologies and a lot of stuff, and other, just a bunch of stuff. It's not just weapon stuff. Gets pushed in our brains by the fallen one, especially the people that are in power. That control that fall, and the Luciferians at the top, the elite. Oh yeah, that's what they do. I'd say they're probably voice to skull in contact with the dark one. What? I wouldn't. Hey, people, this world and stuff in it, a lot of stuff going on is unbelievable. You would not believe it. A lot of people would not believe it, and probably won't believe it, and probably don't want to believe it, and don't want to hear about it because it's scary to them. But if you're saved, if you're born again, you're walking in the Lord, your home is in heaven. If you leave this earth, you're a strong Christian, then you can process this stuff and deal with it in a way. Some people can't. Some people will panic and just go all to pieces over it. Don't do that. If you're saved and you're going to heaven, you can process this stuff and you can carry it on to other people and give them the information too, and pass it along and help warn people. Don't want run out the door screaming and throw up your hands and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. Remember, don't knee jerk. Okay, if things are going to happen, things are going to happen. And there's nothing, just me personally, I'm a nobody. Ain't nothing I can do. I can't. All I can do is pray. But righteous prayer, or the prayer of a righteous man availeth much, rather. So, been a lot of stuff about rape quite a bit here lately, and I know a lot of the Muslim. That happens a lot. This guy calls it rape-ageddon, because it's an Armageddon, headed to America. Time for women across this nation to arm themselves and prepare to defend their lives. I 100% agree. Women out there are like, ooh, guns, I hate guns, I hate guns. Well, if something happens, you're going to be wishing that you had something to defend yourself. So I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm pro you women out there having something to take care of yourself, because some of you work in dangerous areas. Some of you work a second or a third shift or something, and you have to walk, and there's always a danger. I don't want to go back and talk about some of the news articles about stuff that's happened, because that kind of bothers me and infuriates me. So you need something to protect yourself. I know the Lord will protect you, but He gave us common sense too, to be able to defend ourselves, and that's all right. As of right now, we still have on the surface that right. So, go out, with your husband, boyfriend, an instructor at a gun place, and get yourself a gun permit and get something for you to carry. That way you can protect yourself. Because you just don't know. You don't know when something's going to happen. Sorry, just going out and trying to find anything that just covering the just the more serious type stuff. Toxic pollution in rivers by EPA. That's nothing new. That's another good reason to have a good store of water, just in case somebody for some reason poisons the water. And like it happened in West Virginia 2 or 3 years ago, and people couldn't even wash clothes for like, what was it, 2-3 weeks or something like that. So it'd be good to have a good supply of bottled water. Not to mention, canned goods as well. Oh, that's the same article, just posted again. Okay. I believe I mentioned this the other day, and the guy plopped it up for free. Drone jammer blueprints now available for instant download and immediate delivery. Hurry, 48 hours only. And if anyone remembers that they talked about and they're talking drone as in those big, or whatever size are, but they're pretty big. Those Predator type drones with the straight wings, and talking about like the small quad, propeller type drones, and they even got small ones. I mean, that you wouldn't even believe what they have. You wouldn't even realize that you were being watched if it wasn't so infuriating that they do that to a person. It would almost be neat. So now this guy comes up with a way to jam these drones. Well, I know you'd get in trouble for it, but I've got a little bit of a better way to jam it. I'm not going to jam it at all. I'm going to take a shotgun and I'm going to blow it out of the sky. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. I'm not going to say nothing like that. Or say I'm going to do that. I wouldn't. You know what? I know a lot of people say this. I don't want the government in my life, but I'll say this. I got nothing to hide. I'm just, here I am. Got my, computer, just a normal married. I got cats and dogs, got a normal life, and for the most part, other than problems such as this stuff we're talking about right now, have a good life in the Lord, a Christian, saved, know I'm going to heaven. So if I've heard of people actually threaten and actually meaning it, and if and there's even one person that, well, I'm not even gonna go there. But at any rate, so this blueprints this guy had made to be able to jam those smaller drones are available online. I don't know if this could be a little bit older, but it said it's further down the list for 48 hours only. Wow. That's another funny thing. I've got a weird sense of humor. Don't pay attention to me. All right. Let's see. Speaking of which, hang on just one second. I'm just trying to get this scrolling. Okay. The Chinese army is going full James Bond. Haha. These military auto gyros will be used for special forces search and rescue. Basically, it's a small one-man helicopter. Sean Connery used it in You Only Live Twice. That's what he used. It was a small. It's a little one-man helicopter. If you do a search on it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But apparently, the Chinese army is actually using those. It's not like they haven't been used for many years, and other military and other governments. But this is the article, and it is like a single man little helicopter. I mean, they're kind of comical looking, but they said they're going to be used for the special forces and search and rescue. So that's on the surface. Used for spy type stuff too. I doubt if they have any, being that small, have any stealth capabilities like a whisper mode or something like that on the rotor. But more earthquakes. That's nothing new. Seems like there's just more and more every single day. The number continues to go up. Let's see. This is what I was talking about earlier. And it goes a lot into talking about death, basically, and it goes into talking about abortions. Millions of abortions, and there's the culture. There's pop. Like I said earlier, like with the Walking Dead. It's in vogue to have this. It's a pop culture of death. People are just infatuated. What's death metal. Shows about The Walking Dead about death. Read this. Read a little bit of this here, just to kind of give a. This is on radio, iTunes, MTV. The stars are aligned, singing "Die Young" and "Born to Die." Kids follow this stuff. This is a former poison giant now supplies a large portion of the nation's food supply. This is where it gets bothersome. And a mega soda corporation uses fetal stem cells in the lab to enhance flavor. Now, does everyone understand that, or do people want me to get gruesome and break that down? Just think about it. We'll read it again. A former poison giant now supplies a large portion of the nation's food supply, and a mega soda corporation uses fetal stem cells in the lab to enhance flavor. Okay, moving on. Meanwhile, government subsidizes the clinical elimination of millions of unborn children. Stupid Planned Parenthood. As media collectively makes, and they do that, and they're doing this, the media, and especially all movie stars and singers, collectively makes marriage appear absurd or impossible. You can't stay married, you just end up divorced. This is a different age. It's not like back in the 50s, and the woman bringing the tray out with apron on. Leave it to Beaver type stuff. Said, they also make child rearing just unappealing and drudgery. So talking about this, the whole thing about this, just a culture of death, and well, that first part I read, I've heard that before, and I've been kind of sitting on that piece of info for a while now. So I've been wanting to find out more about it, and well, there's some more as well. But I really, I hope you got what I read there without having just to come right out and say it, because it is. It's gruesome to think about. But let's see. And all this I was talking about. It says the preceding nonsense is brought to you by the 6 death-dealing corporations that own the entire media. Have we not talked about that? Okay, number 1, the slick advertising campaigns that sell the endless wars. Hats off, seriously, for somehow getting away with having no debates at all. I'm totally impressed. Okay, number 2, the entertainment mainstream's fascination with witchcraft and sorcery, with good old family Disney being a prime proponent, like Charmed, people, Vampire Diaries, just a bunch. Number 3, and this was talking about earlier, the nearly infinite permutations of the zombie theme. Or in parentheses says, or perhaps you didn't notice. Yeah. Okay. The ambiguous ghost shows, and you heard me talk about them before, with a corresponding medium trudging through the haunting, I feel this, and I feel that, and I feel that. And you guys have heard me talk about that before. If you go to a haunting, you're not dealing with good old Aunt Clara that's still roaming around there as energy, and it's not her. If you're contacting something, you're contacting something from the dark side. You're contacting a familiar spirit, something that's transformed, that's read your mind when you walked in the door and knew how to play you, like a banjo. So that's something I really want to push, because they're so, and talk about, because shows like that are extremely popular. As I said, you kids playing around with Satanism, with Ouija boards, you're letting stuff loose and opening portals that you have no idea what you're doing, what you're opening. You don't know how to close them. Stop messing around with that stuff. I'm telling you, it's as dangerous as you messing around with drugs and alcohol and all the rest of the stuff. Maybe even more so. More dangerous than that. At any rate. Number 5. The suavely construed sex and death confections, basically flesh peddling in the in movies. We'll say it that way. Okay. And just because there ought to be 6 examples, how about the deadly pills that the TV pushes that can potentially kill, but are sold with glossy butterflies and smiling pill poppers? Well, how many meds years ago that come out in the market. It was the latest, greatest thing, and now there's lawsuits over them because they've caused birth defects or something that they're causing. We're being pilled to death. I want to give you a quick example, and this can include other things, but I believe a major part of it is going to be this. Book of Revelations, it uses the word sorcery in there. Now, the Greek word that is written there is the word pharmakia. It's where we get our word pharmacy, pharmaceuticals, and everything. So what is one of the major things right now that's got people? It's prescription pain meds, prescription medications, stuff like that. Oh yeah, there's going to be all kinds of different meds and stuff like that. Even gateway meds and stuff like ayahuasca that you can contact, and people have done this. What they call almost to a certain extent astral projection. People, oh, that ain't real. Yes, it's real. There's a lot of stuff that people that just will not believe. So only lead the horse to the water. You can't make them drink. But that's just one example. Pharmakia, and they'll use the word sorcery. The U.S. is a major supplier of drugs like that, medications, or major, the biggest on the planet peddler of pornography, and just bunches of other stuff I can name off. Woe unto this country. Last couple of items, just talking about earthquakes. There's not a day that I don't look on here, and about 2 or 3 of them I skip each day just because of it's talking about earthquakes. We know that they're coming, they're here. Earthquakes in diverse places. We know we're in the birth pains. The earth is groaning and travailing to be released from the curse. So at any rate, that is the news. As like to hear Garrison Keillor say, that's the news from Lake Wobegon for today. Could go back. There was still some stuff the other day that I'd have to really, really go back and look through that I wanted to talk about, but unfortunately I believe it's all gone now, or it's in there somewhere, but I have to root out each and every one. So if I can do that, I'll talk about it. But at any rate, I'm going to, I guess, end the news section right now, and I'm going to try to come back on here in a bit, and we'll do some studying, get into God's Word. So at any rate, we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Thanks.